This podcast contains content that is graphic in nature and mature language that may be unsuitable for children or young listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Previously on Sin Law, episode 22, part 1, Beneath the Victory Cheers, the murder that shook Monroe. So, last episode, just to do a quick recap, we went all the way back to, actually, we eventually went back to 83, but the murder of Brenda Spicer, the 18-year-old up-and-coming hopeful at Northeast Louisiana University, now known as ULM, in Monroe. She was murdered. Her body was found in a dumpster on campus outside of one of the buildings in between the Coliseum, which is where the...
it's an S, not a Z.
I said the Coliseum, which is the gymnasium. Basically, this is what they call their gym.
Okay.
So it was between the gymnasium and...
I assume they don't have lions.
Conveniently, the warehouse storage lockers, of which Ivrin Bolden, who was the main suspect, who was actually taken to trial for the murder, owned a storage locker, which they surmised that she had been murdered in, and then he had taken her from there to the dumpster on the campus on his way back to the game the night before. So, long story short, he goes to trial.
And they bungled it.
Well, bungled, whatever. But you also had testimony from Star Witness for his defense.
I didn't say who they was.
She gave him an alibi that stood up to the test, according to the articles from the jury that they did interviews after the trial was done. And not only did the girlfriend testify, this girlfriend was even more believable because she was also the former teammate on the basketball team at NLU with Brenda. They were very close. According to testimony in trial, she said they were like sisters, but let's be real, they were lovers. They were in a relationship. And according to the book by Fran Parker that I mentioned a lot last episode and will continue to mention in this episode as well, Deadly Triangle, Fran wrote that, everybody pretty well knew that they were lesbians, that they were in a romantic relationship that was interfering with the relationship that she had with Ivrin, which caused him to be jealous, which caused him to lose it. And
which, if that was how it started, would have at least made some sort of sense.
What do you mean?
I mean, like if they had just right off the bat and gotten together when she and Ivrin were together, but like if he hadn't have been stalky and creepy and rapey beforehand, I don't think that would have actually happened.
Well, entering speculation station, pulling in a big old caboose, way in the back, there are mentions of exes, and one specific ex from his high school that he dated for a while, that she disappeared and was never found and was classified as a runaway. That is a rumor. That is a rumor. That is a big speculation on a lot of people's part. And I say a lot of people. I found at least 3 different mentions of this, but there was no actual cooperation. I could not find an article related to any kind of missing person from his specific high school. However,
just like he somehow became a valedictorian?
Well, one of these things that I'm going to mention real quick is that, again, we're talking about the late 80s, early 90s, where being gay was almost as bad as being a woman, and also almost as bad as being racist. Like, it was just, there was a lot of things going on. Like,
think about that, Tim.
Okay, so the way I said it
okay. I know you don't want to say
black, it was bad. If you were a woman, it was bad. If you were a lesbian and a woman and you were black, it was never going to happen. You weren't going to make it out of that alive. And coming from a perspective of they probably were infatuated with each other. They probably did try to hide it and keep it from themselves, or to keep that from being their kind of relationship, because they knew it could never be a thing, and because they knew they could get in trouble, because they knew they could cause drama and hardship and issues within everything. But they only had to last a little while longer because Joelle Tillis, who was the girlfriend / former teammate / ex-girlfriend of the deceased Brenda, slash liar on the stand. Anyway, she was about to graduate. She was going to graduate in the spring of the next year of 88. So they wouldn't have to wait much longer. They could, exist outside of the college. They could exist outside of the team, being teammates and being lesbians, which would ease a little bit of that stress. Because again, we're gonna scoot into the station, because Fran in her novel, she states specifically something to the fact that her account, and I mentioned this last episode, her account of the events of all of this is semi firsthand. But in the novel that she wrote, she kind of writes in a fashion of omnipotence. I'm sorry, that's wrong. Omniscience.
Yeah.
Omnipresent.
Yeah.
Anyway, she writes from the perspectives of Joelle, and she writes from the perspective of Brenda, and it's a third person omniscient. So, omnipotent. Right?
No. Omnipotent is all powerful.
Right.
Omniscient is all knowing, and omnipresent is
so
everywhere.
Regardless, she like God sitting there watching. She a fly on a wall, whatever, however you want to put it. She is speaking as if she was there in some of these occasions, when we know she wasn't. But a lot of the information she got for the novel came from people that were. But again, you can only take that so far. You can only take it as much as you want to put stock in it. So, fictionalized, true story. Artistic measures were taken. So my point behind all of that is to say that in the novel there's a specific chapter talking about the day of the 5th, March 5th, leading up to Brenda's murder. And in the novel, Fran says that, Joelle had gone with Ivrin and basically had decided that she was going to break it off with him so that she could be with Brenda. And her and Brenda had kind of planned this public breakup at an ice cream parlor after Joelle had gone and spent time with Ivrin that morning. They meet up at the ice cream shop, unbeknownst to Ivrin, to dump him. And he's all cool, calm, collected, Mr. Cucumber, and says, okay, well, we can still be friends. We can make that work just to be friends, right? Right. So, long story short, he plays it off.
That's a lot of long story short.
Doesn't make sense at all. And by the time that Joelle realizes that Brenda is missing, she knows what happened. There could not have been a single doubt in her mind. Otherwise, she wouldn't have lied for him. She wouldn't have covered for him. She wouldn't have destroyed the tape from the basketball game showing that it changed clothes at halftime. She would not have allowed her mother to get on the stand. And because her mom also testified, not Ivrin's mom, Joelle's mom. So Joelle's mom gets on the stand, says he was there the whole game. There was no way he had time, even though they had other eyewitnesses to the contrary, people who saw him leaving the Coliseum, people who saw him, a good distance away at the same time that he says he was either in the bathroom or at the concession stand. So take that for what it was. The jury made the decision. They did not declare a mistrial. They voted 11-1 to acquit, and that's what happened. He was acquitted. He was found not guilty. And he and Joelle sailed away, rode off on horseback into the sunset, right? Happily ever after. He was going to go to the military. He was going to let them pay for his doctor's medical education, and it was going to be smooth sailing from here on out. You believe that?
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah, because that's not what happens. Unfortunately, because there wouldn't need to be a whole other episode if that was what happened.
I like to talk sometimes.
I do enjoy talking, and I do enjoy telling stories, so that's why we're here. Speaking of telling stories, before we get into episode 23 in its main meat and potatoes, okay, so it semi-worked out that our audio on the other recording messed up and we had to redo this because we got our very first Patreon. And part of being a Patreon for Sin-Law is getting a shout out for joining and supporting us. Yeah, and I want to say, Kayla, thank you so much. I will shortly be sending out your commissary package because she, not only did she become a Patreon, she became our Life Without Parole member.
Of course she did.
Of course she did. So she gets the big package.
Hey.
I mean, because she's in there for life. What are you going to do? So... Thank you so much for your patronage, and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to call Patreon members. So if I get more than one, Kayla, let me know. You throw something at me. If I like it, we'll just go with it. Because I mean, like, first grandkid gets to go, gets to make the grandparents' names, right? So it's kind of like that. You get to name what the rest of the Patroni are called.
That follows. Patroni. So, the Patronuses.
Expectos. No.
We expecto some more Patronuses.
So thank you for that, and if you guys want to check it out, there's some stuff that is not required to have a membership to see, but a lot of the good stuff, the juicier stuff, way more bonus pictures, a lot of the unedited blooper reel type stuff is in there, and I've got pictures of my like episode preparation notes and things like it's just a lot of cool stuff. And also, as soon as you become a member, you get a care package. If you become the Life Without Parole, the LWAP. And I think it's a $5 buy for the all members, and all of the stuff is the same. I don't break up. The only thing that's different between the bigger care package or commissary package and the smaller package is literally what you get in your initial member gift package.
You get some super serial stuff in the big one.
Right. You get more things in because you're going to be in there for life, so you got to have more stuff, right? That's my idea. Anyway.
Or at the very least, because you paid more, so you get more.
Having said that, thank you so much, Kayla, again. Very first Patreon member, and I couldn't be more grateful. You should have seen the smile on my face earlier. I was trying to figure out, because I'd never had a member before. I didn't know where to go. I had an alert on my phone pretty much all day because I couldn't figure out how to clear it. So, anyway.
That's great. I didn't know that.
Long story short, thank you. And everybody out there, you don't have to be a Patreon to be a member. A Patronus. You don't have to be a Patroni, whatever. You don't have to be an Expecto to be able to get my affection. I appreciate you guys just being here and listening. We're going to scoot right on into 1988. This is episode 23, part 2. And in 1989 as well. We're going to kind of roll into that. This episode, I'm going to get through the bulk of the end of the story here pretty quick. And I say pretty quick, it's probably going to be about 25 minutes. But it doesn't take long to get through this to get to the next court section, right? But once we get there,
then we're there for a while.
Going to be a little bit of a lot. So
that's called a lottle.
It's a lottle. That's true. And by that I mean this case, and I think I mentioned this last episode, it's got so many legal nuances and like what happens. There are precedents and different parts of the law that you have to get into, and things that I actually had to go look up because I didn't know what they meant. Like, I learned a lot just because of this one case about a multitude of things. Woohoo. So, I'm going to get a little bit preachy, a little bit teachery, a little bit lawyered on the end of the episode. So, if you're not really here for that side of it, because I do try to make sure and have a little bit of education of the legal system, because that's what I like to believe is a little bit different about our true crime. We throw in not just the crime part, but we also, like, give a little bit of the legal side, because I find both equally fascinating. So, having said that, let's go back to 1989. Give a little bit of your love to me. Because the trial of Ivrin Bolden, his acquittal occurred on March 13th, so almost exactly a year and a week after Brenda's body was found. They had a 3-hour deliberation. Then he was off on his merry way. And now, since we've already recorded the first good chunk of this, I'm trying to not skip over things that I know I included the last time, which is difficult. However, I do know that I made mention, because it comes into play a little bit later, Ivrin Sr., because remember, this is Ivrin Bolden Jr., he is... Junior doesn't do a lot of talking in the media and such, but Senior loves to talk to the press. Like, I literally have a note in my notebook, which you can see if you have the picture on the Patreon.
Kayla.
It actually, the only note that I have arrows pointing at Ivrin Sr. He loves underline the press. And then there's another handwriting off to the side little note jotted, chatty as fuck. Because literally, I as I'm scrolling through the newspapers and getting all of this background and trying to see exactly how this kind of worked throughout this, timeline, I kept coming across Ivrin Bolden Sr., and like the headlines and the things that this man said. Some of you guys are going to be enraged. It's not going to be fun for you. It's probably going to make you want to hit something. And as long as that's not like your children or your pets, like, go for it. I like pillow, your anger pillow, aggression pillow. Go with that. I hear that's a thing. I don't know.
Is that what you call a... Yeah, I can't say that on there.
Okay, beautiful. So, as he was leaving and getting back to his life as normal, or whatever the hell you want to call it, the newspaper articles read, Bolden focuses on the future now that nightmare is past. Bolden eyes the future, not the past. Bolden jurors' alibi withstood the test. And then there is a mention on about the, I guess the 17th of March 88 that said that the case was reopened by the police, but that was the last mention of that ever, because the article actually ended with a quote from one of the investigators saying, "We got the right guy the first time." So, yeah, that's what they still believed, and they weren't wrong. So, let's keep trucking. So,
Mother trucker.
Yeah. By mid-89, they went to Marlis Bates, that is Joelle's mother. They went to her house for Mother's Day, and that was May 16th of 89. They had moved to Tennessee with Joelle's cousin, so it was Joelle, Ivrin, and Shannon. That was her male cousin that moved up to Tennessee with the two of them, because Ivrin had flunked out of college. He blamed it on the trial.
After being a valedictorian?
Yeah.
How?
So he initially flunked out of med school, but then he was going to take like his chemistry.
Much shit as I might give him that
major.
Med school's fucking hard.
Yeah, no, for sure. But he was going to do his chemistry major stuff. But he had told the newspapers when he was eyeing the future that he was going to go to the military, and then that he was already recruited and they were going to pay for his school, yada, yada, yada. That didn't happen. He did not finish college in any shape, form, or fashion. He actually packed up and moved out, or moved in with him in Baton Rouge or somewhere down there after she graduated in the spring of 88, and then after the trial stuff, and then they moved to Tennessee a short time after. I could never find an exact positive date on when they actually moved to Tennessee. I just know it was between the late 80s, the late 88, early 89 year. So by May, they were living up there. They had come down to visit Joelle's mom in Hammond, and that was on May 16th. I'm sorry, and they left after that weekend. Joelle's mom, Marlis, she said there was no signs of anything off, or nothing sat with her as uneasy or made her think that there could be a problem brewing or that something bad was going to happen. It was just a normal visit, and she gave them all kisses, told them all love you, then sent them on their way back to Tennessee. At this point, Shannon, the cousin, Ivrin, and Joelle were living in an apartment together. Joelle was the breadwinner at this point because Ivrin had just gotten fired from a security job that he had, and he was working at Graceland. And we talked about this the first time we recorded, even though, we can't get that. And I'm still going to put it on Patreon because when we talked about this the first time, it was a question that I had for Kyler, and I was pretty surprised and shocked that he hadn't been to Graceland. I've been to Graceland. My mom is an Elvis. Well, we see. She was on one of the other episodes. She is an Elvis nut.
We see you.
Yeah. So Kyler's never been. We got to take the kids and go up there because it's actually really cool. So that's why it stuck out. But anyway, so Graceland, that's where we were talking about doing the tours and things. And Ivrin had actually got the cousin of Joelle, Shannon. He had got him a job working as security as well. Well, Shannon kept his job, and for whatever reason, which I could not figure out, it was not mentioned, Ivrin lost his. So at this point now,
because he's not a very secure person.
If anybody
he's actually rather insecure.
Right. If anybody remembers from last episode, which you could probably connect the dots here, Ivrin likes to be in control. He likes to be the one that is able to have that grip, basically, and say, I've got the money, I've got the job, I've got the wealth, I'm providing, you have to do what all of those things. So now...
I can't figure out how to be a goddamn people person.
Now, add to that the fact that you've murdered someone. I know you murdered someone, but because I testified that you didn't murder someone, now I'm just as guilty as you. And that, add that to any relationship and tell me how that works out. You've got her holding it, well, I'll just go tell the police. And then him, well, you go tell the police, then I'll get you in trouble too. Culpable. Exactly. So you've got this push and pull back and forth that if you leave me, I'll tell them that you were a part of it, or that kind of thing. Because he's that guy. He's 100% that guy.
Yeah, fuck that.
Like, I'll kill myself if you leave me, but instead of that, it's I'll take you down with me if you leave me. Yeah. So, and it's believable, because, he strangled, raped, and brutally, savagely murdered. Anyway, so, point being, the tensions, the eggshells, the...
Eggshells?
Amount of just... overwhelming that had to be building up with inside of Joelle, because it never was a great relationship. They had good points, they had good things about them, but according to a close friend of Joelle's at the time that would talk to Joelle on the phone pretty frequently, she later told, I believe it was Fran, but it may have been secondhand, again, not sure.
Secondhand Fran.
She told that friend within a day or so of the events that I'm about to tell you about that she...
Oh, those ones?
Mm-hmm.
The potion for Cusco's poison?
Her friend said that she felt trapped, that she wanted out, that he was obsessed, and what I talked about earlier with the ice cream parlor, if that actually happened, that would explain a lot. Because she had stood her ground, said, I'm leaving you, I'm done with you, I feel like I'm being pressured and feel trapped and I want out. And he was like, okay, cool,
I'll let you out.
Cool.
Right here, in this ditch.
And then murder. And then now we can be together. See how much I love you. I got rid of the problem. And
you were the problem.
Instead of running and screaming the other direction, she was like,
so sweet.
And no, I don't even think it was that, honestly. I think it was like, oh, well, I guess this is my best option now. Which is sad. But I honestly think that just from everything that I've read and everything that I gathered, that that's probably where that line of thinking went. So anyway, so they're in this really shitty relationship, this terrible dynamic, and you, every single one of you, man, female, whatever you identify as, you deserve better than anything close to this. So if this sounds familiar, Jesus Christ, call me. Send me an email. I'll come get you. Like, don't do this. So this was, I think it was May 17th was the phone call with the friend, and there was an article I came across that actually said the friend mentioned something about finding obscene pictures of Ivrin, and that Joelle said she was shocked when she found them and what they portrayed of him. And
it was his booty.
And there was another piece of information that she told the friend about, which was a letter from a intimate friend who was a male that she found along with these obscene pictures. So remember how, and I don't even, shit, I think that was in the lost recording as well, that I mentioned something about them both having bisexual and or gay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was in the last episode.
Anyway, in my opinion, this 100% my opinion, no one else's responsible.
The majority of this podcast is 100% our opinion.
No, for sure, but most of it is backed up, and I try not to put too many heavy overtones on my actual opinion of what I believe.
This is a self-made, self-produced.
Right. Anyway, yes.
Yeah, we're going to talk about things that our own brain selves have thought of.
So my opinion is if they weren't gay completely, they were both very bisexual. They were equally attracted to the opposite sex, but as taboo as it was for lesbians, it was way more taboo for gay guys. So I get it.
Yeah, it was just as bad. It was just,
and that would also account for some of the irritation and the pent up rage, and that feeling of control and all of the things, and to be able to prove I love women, look how pretty she is, look how good I did, look what I have, look, I can't be gay, you know what I mean, that kind of idea, which would make sense because the time. But then again,
that shit still happens today.
Yes, I know. So that's kind of my point. So May 17th of 1989, she's on the phone with this really close friend, which is now kind of, the friends reported later, it is kind of reminiscent of the Brenda situation with Joelle, because Ivrin has started acting jealous of her because they spent a lot of time on the phone. Joelle would call her and complain, or just girl talk, or if they wanted to go out, he had to know when, where, how long, and who they were going to be with. And he started to portray those same kind of reactions and emotions towards this friend.
The controlling, semi-sociopath was
right.
Also, he was also going to alienate her. He was making sure that he was the only one that she was going to be in contact with, and that if she wanted to have any friends, that they had to be her, or they had to be him.
Well, and you add on top of that this specific female friend was known to be not of the straightest era. Yeah, so she also liked women.
So she was curved.
It was a known thing. So he knew that. He knew that about her, and whatever it was, whether it be jealousy, whether it be upset because she had gay friends she could talk to.
What you mean that ain't good enough?
However you want to call it, he didn't like it. And before they got off the phone at around 4 a.m. that morning, so they had talked from the night of the 17th to the early morning hours of the 18th, her, Joelle, and this friend. And she said before she got off the phone with her, Joelle made it clear, like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm over it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm gonna leave him. Which she had said before, and she had left before, and went and stayed with her mom for a while, and then eventually went back. Because what else bonds you to someone like extreme trauma? Which is
literally fucking anything.
Right, but psychologically and historically, this is an actual occurrence. Like,
oh yeah, and
survive
at that point,
a hurricane together. You're gonna.
At that point, he'd been controlling her for so long. She might have just had Stockholm syndrome.
Well, honestly, if you think about it, this was only a span of from the 83. This is 89. That's 6 years.
It's a long fucking time. How old were they? How old were they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like the most malleable years of your life.
Not even that. Just in the amount of time that they had lived, 6 years out of 24 is a quarter of her life. Was my point I was trying to make. I just didn't know how old they were.
Right.
Or didn't remember.
Well, that's kind of my point too, though. Like those are very formidable years to conquer as they are. But you throw in something like all of the tangled web that this is, it gets even murkier and harder, and then you kind of get stuck in this rut of nobody else is ever going to understand me or, be able to love me in the same way because they don't know all of my skeletons and such. So she left sometimes, she came back, she always came back. Well, at this point, like I said, she was the main breadwinner, and she was working at a Lady Foot Locker at the mall there in Nashville, I believe. And
sounds about right.
She was working, and so she needed the car. Well, that morning, her and Ivrin got into an argument about something to do with the car. The cousin was present and was there and witnessed the argument, but he was like, every interview he gave after that, it didn't seem like it was a big deal. Later, they went and had breakfast at McDonald's. It seemed like it was all good. It didn't seem like something that would have warranted what happened next. So that was all in hindsight, of course.
But none of what they do seems like it should warrant what happens next in any of it.
None of it. So Joelle had to be at work by noon, or by 1. So they left. Actually, Ivrin ended up driving her in the car instead of letting her take the car. Because,
which, if he needs it
control.
and she has to be at work, but still,
he doesn't have a job.
Oh, he just didn't want her to take it?
He didn't want her to take the car. He wanted to be able to control the situation and not give her a way to leave because he didn't want her leaving without him knowing.
Yeah, that's retarded.
This is him.
Still retarded. Because in my mind, the most logical outcome, if it was, but that was taking into account him needing the car for actual something, is, he'd take her and then take it and bring back and pick her up, because that would be the most logical use of the fucking car.
Right.
But he just doesn't want her to use it.
That's right.
That's dumb.
He doesn't want her to be able to have an independence, to be able to go where she wants to go and do what she wants to do without him knowing. So they leave that morning. He is taking Joelle to be dropped off at the mall. And come that evening, Joelle's mother calls and asks Ivrin, hey, have you heard from her? She didn't call me today, because Joelle called her mother like clockwork every single day, if for no other reason, just to say hey. So it was kind of odd, but not crazy, off, because they don't have cell phones. They have to have a landline. So, of course, sometimes things happen. You get caught up, you get tired, whatever.
Somebody's on the computer.
That's not even that time yet.
Oh.
So he says, well, last time I saw her, I dropped her off at work, and I haven't heard from her since. And Joelle was such a good employee, and she had already become a manager there at the Lady Foot Locker, and her employer at work, her boss at work, had already called and made note of the fact that she wasn't there. So everybody's like, okay, well, she's just going to blow off steam. Her friend's like, yeah, she told me yesterday she was going to leave, so maybe she'll show up at her mom's. So when her mom calls and said, have y'all heard from her? That should have been a big clue, right? So by the time the 19th rolls around, and this is the second day in a row that Joelle has not called and not showed up for work, her employer and her coworkers call Ivrin, and they're like, look, if you're not going to say she's missing, we will call the police. We will make a missing persons report, because this is not like her. She has never missed more than one day ever for working here for as long as she had already. And this is way out of character. If you don't do it, we will. He said, no. It has to be me. I'll do it. Mm-hmm.
Red flag number 2.
Number 1743.
Specifically to this instance.
So, even crazier than that, and even more evidence to the fact that she was not just off on her own, because she had 2 full paychecks waiting for her at the store, for her to come pick up.
If she was going to leave with some bank.
She damn sure would have come and got the money first. That just follows all logic processes.
Let me get that. Let me go get my fuck this shit money. my nest egg.
Yeah, exactly. But no, she had 2 checks still there, never picked them up, and finally, on May 19th, he reported her missing to the authorities, and that's when the newspaper articles start up again, talking about this missing woman, and the headlines are very fun. They say, Tillis resided with friend's accused killer. Missing woman lived with man acquitted in best friend's death. And then it continues, because immediately almost they start getting suspicious. Police want reports on Spicer case. And the next one we see something about it puzzles her mother. So at this point of this article specifically, and I'll link it in the show notes too, it says Bolden's girlfriend missing 3 weeks, and this was an article in the Hammond or the Shreveport Times, and it says that the police in Tennessee say Joelle Tillis' disappearance is being treated as a missing persons case, but they admit it's not a typical one. Marla Spate says her daughter's disappearance is anything but typical of her. Joelle's father and I divorced when she was 7, and so Joelle and I became really close. She has always called. She never went anywhere without calling. Even if she was angry with me, she'd call. And that was the last time. On Mother's Day was the last time that she saw her oldest daughter, and that's when they were headed back to Tennessee. Now, the things that she was really confused about was Ivrin never called her.
Man, that sounds familiar.
He never called her to let her know.
Didn't it happen with
Brenda? Now, this article actually mentions the fact that he was charged with Brenda's murder, and that Joelle and her mother testified at the trial, and that was probably her testimony, specifically the mom's, Marla's, that her testimony probably provided him with his main alibi, and that Joelle had been supportive of him the entire time. And then she switches back gears and says that she hopes and holds out the hope that her daughter will call. And she says, quote, "I don't feel like Joelle is dead, but I can't explain what is happening. It's strange and baffling. I pray and I hold on to hope." And then it mentions the nephew, Shannon, the cousin that's been living up there. And she said that Shannon told her that they'd had a disagreement about who would take the car, but it seemed to be a minor issue. And Ivrin had told the police that he dropped her off at the mall, saw her making a call from a phone booth. He said that she assumed that she had gone into work, but Tillis' boss said she never showed up. And then he didn't report her missing until the next night at 7 p.m. They contacted all the different close friends that she had. Like I said, the girl that she was on the phone with at 4 a.m. that morning.
2?
Yeah, but she had a lot of friends. She was very
she had a lot of friends, but close friends.
Right.
How many was she allowed to have?
Not very many, and fewer by the day. And this article starts to give us kind of an imagery about what was going on after Joelle vanished. Now, she was supposed to be at work on the 18th. On the 19th, he reported her missing that night. And by the 20th or the 21st, he was out. He packed up everything of theirs, including the bed, the furniture, her clothes, his clothes, everything out of the apartment, never said a word to the cousin, Shannon, and rolled out. He said that, and Shannon said that the family, his father, came up from Louisiana to help him move his shit out in like overnight style. Just up and out.
So almost like they was used to doing shit like this.
Definitely one of them 18,000th red flags. Because and I don't want to say anything's normal or anything isn't normal, but
all of this is not normal.
Absolutely not.
I will for sure say that.
That's fine. But if your significant other has gone missing, you can't find them, you don't know where they are, and you're hoping that they're going to be coming back, you have hope that they'll be coming back, why would you leave the place where they might come back to? Why would you take all of their stuff and leave nothing there with no way of letting them know that you've taken off with all of their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is one of the biggest things in my mind that stands out like a blinking red light in a fog. Like, you can see that bitch from miles.
Yeah, instead of holding on to the beacon of hope that you have.
That she might be coming back. This is the last place I saw her. I'm going to stand right here with flyers until I see her again. Shannon said that he just ghosted one night there, one night next, and he said that they took all of their stuff, her stuff included. Now we're going to scoot a little bit further. And May 19th, she was reported missing. We get into June, still no leads. At this point, they're requesting the records on Brenda to see how that happened and see what actually went down with that. Across the river, across the Mississippi and Arkansas, unbeknownst to the Tennessee authorities, on June 11th, there was an unknown body found in the river that was recovered. It was so badly decomposed that they couldn't tell anything. They couldn't tell much outside of it being a female. They couldn't really say anything else about it. They didn't know the age. They couldn't even guess. They had to send it out to be autopsied and for the forensics examination because...
Man, that's just curious.
It was very badly decomposed. So they also had no way of knowing for sure how she died because there was no evident or obvious wounds that they could see just with the naked eye. So they had to send that body out to go get it autopsied, and that was on June 11th.
Sounds hella familiar.
Almost immediately, within about, I would say 24 to 48 hours, within 24 to 48 hours of this body being found, you know, it got picked up pretty quick that this is a possibility of being Joelle. Mom commented and said, I can't believe that to be true until they let me know for sure. So they actually get her dental records from her mom, and they send that off. And because of the very hot weather, the only way that they were going to be able to identify this body was by dental. They found her body in a ditch. It was a dried out ditch that literally was on the main highway that came across the river from Tennessee. It was US 70, and it was less than 30 feet off. Her body was less than 30 feet off the side of the ditch, but because of the heavy foliage, no one ever saw her until that morning. I believe someone he was either grading or mowing. I think he was mowing a yard or a driveway nearby and saw something that looked odd, and then reported the body being found over there. So,
hey, what's that? Oh my God, it's a woman.
Yeah,
I think
the actual place where her body was found was about 30 miles southwest of Memphis. And yes, it was her body. Spoiler alert. So they did use dental to identify the body.
Would we really talked about it for this long if it wasn't?
No, absolutely not. So June 15th, it was actually confirmed that it was her body. So she was missing a total of 23 days, and her body was found across the river, but still not that far. Like I say it like it's a big thing. It's not that far. Like I said, it's 30 miles-ish from Memphis, which is where they were living at the time. Her body was found it was wrapped in red sheets, and somebody had picked up like freshly cut grass and spread it across the top of the sheets that her body was inside of to try to cover the body and hide it further. Once they actually got her unwrapped from the sheets, she had underwear, khaki pants, just her bra, gold earrings, her sneakers were on, and they estimated she had been there about 3 weeks, or almost the entirety of the time that she had been missing. At the time, even though they identified her, because of the decomposition, they were going to have to further, examine the body and everything and blood work and such to be able to determine what her actual cause of death was, which was a huge determining factor in where they went from there, because it didn't... Obviously, she didn't put herself in the ditch, unless she did. But there was no reason for her to have been
wrapped herself in sheets and...
Look,
and
A
spread
good
grass.
attorney can poke holes in damn near anything. I'm not saying she wrapped herself up in a sheet, but if she got drunk, decided she was going to take off with just her sheet and her bra on, and then walked off down the road, got drunk, stumbled, and fell. I mean, like, there's a lot of things that you can.
She got drunk and stumbled 30 miles.
Maybe she got a ride from somebody she didn't know. Maybe she got picked up by and wanted to hitchhike and try to get across the country to whatever friend she was going to meet wherever they were. I don't know. But my point is, without a cause of death, without someone forensic expert to say, you have to have that.
Attorney. It would take a hella good attorney.
Well, my point is, unless you have homicide, undetermined further investigation, or something along those lines on the death certificate, most of the time, most office, especially back then, most police officers and investigators, they're not going to continue, in-depth investigation into something that they don't even know if there is something to investigate.
Right.
So they wait for that, and they wait a good while, and the entire time, Joelle's mother and family are just wrecked. Because at this point, as much and as far in denial as you can possibly be, there is no explanation outside of he murdered her and then dumped her and left her on the side of the road and then let your family suffer for almost a month, not knowing where she was, only to find out that she was dead and left like trash on the side of the road. So they were understandably
livid,
beyond livid. And I'm not sure how Miss Bates lived with herself as long as she did, knowing that her testimony provided the alibi for the son of a bitch who got off of murder the first time only to turn around and take her oldest daughter from her because of the testimony she gave. Can you imagine the racking guilt that she had to have felt, and just the regrets on top of that? So,
man, I really should have paid more attention to that basketball game.
Here's where you guys are going to get real mad, because...
Wait, you said that last time and I got pissed.
Nothing happens. I'm talking the rest of 1989.
Alright, fuck this, I'm out.
The rest of 1990. He moves on with his life. There's a lot of suspicions, and during this period is when Senior gets all chatty with the papers. And when I say he gets chatty, he says the most vile of things. And all they, a lot of these papers, all they wanted to focus on was, oh, he was so well educated. Oh, well, he was magna cum laude from NLU. Oh, he was pre-med. Oh, he's got a wealthy family. Oh, he's a valedictorian. All of his friends said he was just such a gentleman. He was so charismatic. They weren't talking to the right fucking people.
No, they were being paid to write what they were being paid to write.
And
dude.
Okay,
it's bullshit.
No, it is. It absolutely is.
Anything ever happened to him?
You have to stick around to find out, sir.
I have been misled and trampled on twice now, and my heart can't take it no more.
Okay. The father is just what I'm trying to find right now.
You're not allowed to pick no more.
I didn't pick this. This is a listener suggestion.
You listener. Just kidding. Love you. That's probably gonna be cut.
A man acquitted in slaying suspect again. Bolden, the most likely suspect. When the eventual autopsy came back, and that would have been in June of 1980, the end of June, so it was like June 20th, the autopsy stated that the most likely cause of death was death by strangulation. And the only reason that they say that was because of the tissue, and I believe the hyoid bone was, and all my true crime friends out there, you know what's up, the hyoid is only ever... the most indicative of a strangulation is when that thing is wrecked, because it takes a lot of force, it takes a lot of pinpoint pressure to break that little bitty bone that's in your neck. So strangulation was ruled as the cause of death, and then they began to investigate. But here's the thing. They're trying to figure out jurisdiction, because her body was found in Arkansas, but they don't know where she was actually murdered. Because if she was murdered in Tennessee, then they have to have the jurisdiction, and because money matters.
Oh yeah.
Again, money matters.
You can say that another couple times.
Because they don't want to pay for an investigation if it's not their investigation.
It's not the money it's not the money from police. It's money matters. He has some rich-ass parents.
By the time they start looking and realizing this was her, this has already been almost a month now. They realize it's Joelle. Then they have to start looking for a crime scene. They 26 days later, they're looking at the apartment, which has been completely cleaned out.
Oh yeah, no,
100%. They go
not even a snowball chance in hell.
They go all the way down to Hammond to look at the storage where Ivrin said that they put all the stuff. I did. I should misname him on purpose, but I'm not that much of a bitch. I care about people's names regardless of how much of an asshole, scumbag, piece of worthless, actual garbage you are. But they go down to his house, search through all that stuff, looking for any kind of evidence. But again, this has been almost a freaking month, and he learned better the first time around. Like, let's get rid of some stuff. So they're looking for everything, and they don't really find a whole lot. Now,
yeah, I wonder why.
I have no idea why not. No clue. The parents didn't help. There was nothing they could. No, nothing at all like that.
Couldn't have been a month of time they gave them, or the previous experiences, or
okay. So they're worried. The jurisdiction's a thing. They're way behind the ball on trying to find any kind of anything of evidentiary value. Joelle's mom is heartbroken, wrecked completely, and there are many articles about why he never called. Why didn't Ivrin ever call? Because they had such a good relationship. Because, like, and that was one of the things I didn't get to mention in the first episode was Ivrin spent more time with Joelle's mom than he spent with his own family. Because Miss Bates was a homemaker. She was a mother. She wanted, that caring, loving atmosphere was always a thing with her in her house. And he latched onto that because that's not what he had at his home. His home was, you win, you do your best, you are the best, or you are the worst, and you will be reprimanded for being the worst. Exactly. So they go in and they're searching the garage at the Boldens down there, like I said, and this is another one of those quotes from Senior. They were asking them in the article why they didn't go to Joelle's funeral or memorial service, and his answer was, well, my wife and I would have gone. I called her mom, but I just wanted to find out some things and express my sorrow, but the next daughter, I don't know her name. She cursed me out, so we didn't feel welcome there. And then another quote, when they were talking about the jurisdiction and why it was kind of being held up, they quoted a couple of officers saying that they felt pretty certain that they were going to move the jurisdiction to Tennessee because they believed that the murder actually occurred in the apartment in Memphis. And Senior was quoted as saying that, he felt sure that didn't occur in the Memphis apartment. He said, quote, "I'm almost sure that's a lie. By Shannon and Ivrin being at home at that time. And besides, the neighbors should have heard something."
All of the faith ever.
All of the, why the hell are you still talking? Why are you still talking? And then it goes June 89, July 89, August, September, October, and then nothing until June of 90. That's just to say that there's no answer. And then it's April of 91 before anything changes with her murder, with the investigation. Everything comes to a stall because once they figure out that the jurisdiction should be in Tennessee looks at it and is just like, I can deal with this. We can't go anywhere with it. We literally have next to nothing. We don't have any evidence because he had plenty of time to clean all of this stuff up. We know he did it. We know it was him. Obviously, this is a pattern, and he gets mad. The woman in his life is going to leave him, and so he decides to take it out on the closest freaking victim. The first time it was Brenda. This time it was Joelle. But we still don't have a way to prove it, and he got better the second time around. He realized that he dumped that body way too close, so now he's got to get it further away. So where does he go? 30 miles down the road, across the river, different state.
And next time, there won't be a body.
So at this point, Senior keeps talking to the papers. Junior doesn't really make any appearances until a little bit later, into like the later 1990s. But at this point, Ivrin moved back to New Orleans, Baton Rouge area, Shreveport, wherever it was, and then eventually makes his way up to, of all places, New Jersey.
Everything's legal in Jersey.
Everything's legal in Jersey.
Any of our listeners that are living in that region, we were not ragging on Jersey. That's a quote from Hamilton.
I'm pretty sure most of the people know that.
I don't want to.
Well, if you don't get it, then you don't need to be listening. So, 1991, in June, things had already started to kind of roll downhill for Ivrin at that point. But I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Earlier in the year of 91, he had been dating a new lady love. Except this one wasn't like the other ones. So in the other situations, he had to chase them. He had to work really hard to keep the attention, to keep them interested. Well, this one was way interested. She was giving him all of the attention. Apparently, that's not exactly what he thought he wanted. Or maybe it was just this level of extra that he was not welcoming, because he actually filed for a restraining order against her because he couldn't get her out the house. So by the time he filed that restraining order and took that out on her...
What do you mean he didn't just kill her?
No, he didn't, because it was a different scenario. He didn't want her. He didn't want to possess her or control her. He wanted her to get the F out. Like, GTFO, please. And no, so... he took out a restraining order. Now, in the midst of this kind of proceeding, he actually attempted to apply for a concealed weapon. Like, he wanted to buy a gun. What are you laughing for? He was acquitted.
Oh, damn.
He doesn't have a felony on his record. It's perfectly acceptable for him to have a weapon. Except it's not. And good on these New Jersey cops, because I'm going to love them right now. I'm going to hate the returnees, but I love the investigators. That's what I'm going with. So, the investigator that is going over this background check for Ivrin says, scratches his chin while he gnaws on his corncob pipe, right? That's what I see in my mind when he says, And he realizes that Ivrin has been in the middle center of and indicted but acquitted of at least one murder, and is the only suspect ever named in the other homicide of both women who were very closely tied to him. And he was like, you know what, I don't think this is a good idea. I think this is a bad idea, guys. So he doesn't allow him to get a permit for a gun or a weapon. So, which was within the legal rights, because if you've ever been indicted for a felony, they can tell you no. So you don't have to actually be convicted, depending on the level of the felony or what the felony was. So, especially a felony of violence. Anyway, in the course of this happening, he gets curious and he is like, okay, well, I want to talk to this lady.
I just want to talk to her.
I just want to talk to her. So they bring her in because they had to bring her in anyway because she broke the restraining order. She broke back into Ivrin's house. So she walked right through that restraining order, but she didn't put him in intensive care. She should have. But anyway, she just wanted to go get some of her stuff. And according to her, when she got to the police station, she said, no, you guys have got it all wrong. I'm trying to get my stuff because I want to get as far away from him as possible, because he said he killed 2 women and he'll kill me too if I don't leave him alone. Wait, what?
I swear to God, if they don't fucking do something with this.
Well, they do, sort of. The investigators do a great job. Because at this point, they've got some really, really cool cards in their hand, right? Because they've got this open investigation into a protective order for Ivrin. So, how they get him down to the station? Hey, do you want to come talk to us about that protective order you've got? We try to figure out what we're going to do with her in this case. You want to come talk to us? Yeah, sure, no problem. So he goes down to the station, sans lawyer, just like the first time, the dumbass. And he goes into the station and gets to talking, chatting, and the investigators do what they are trained to do. They get him at ease. They put him into a comfortable, hey, we're friends stature. And by the end of that interview, he confesses to both. Why am I infuriated? because he cannot be convicted of Brenda's murder because he has already been acquitted. Yeah, guys, you know what's coming.
Yeah, we mentioned this one already.
Double freaking jeopardy. No matter. So, June of 1991, he goes in there and he confesses to both the murder of Brenda Spicer and of Joelle Tillis.
And yet, they still stand around, dicks in hands, nothing they can do.
He's in jail. They lock him up. They extradite him from New Jersey to Tennessee. Actually, I believe they flew up to get him from Tennessee, pulled him back down, and got him there. They indicted him on first-degree murder. Initially, he wasn't going to fight extradition, right? But then he got an attorney, and his attorney fought extradition. And they went from... He was heard for his extradition hearing July 12th. And then it was further delayed until August, when he was finally extradited to Tennessee, August 15th of 91. Now, they set a no bond because it was first-degree murder, 100% within their rights. They got delay after delay after delay after delay. Now, it went from August of 91 until March of 92. All of this wrangling, right?
And this is after he's already been extradited?
Yep, this is when he got to Tennessee.
So
August 16th.
Tennessee police has spent a butt ton of fucking money.
Yeah, well, he's been
as expensive as all fucking.
He's been in jail by him. Like, he's been in jail since he confessed.
Oh yeah.
And but that was he was in New Jersey until August. So he was in Jersey for 2 months, and then they transferred him from Jersey to Tennessee in mid-August, and then they kept him in Tennessee from August of 91 to March of 92. And in March of 92, it just randomly in the papers appears he has taken a plea deal. This is where you're going to get angry, and I apologize in advance, but I am right there with you.
Keep fucking saying that.
So listen to this. How many of you know what an Alford plea is? If any of you know anything about the Memphis 3 or any of those cases that specifically deal with the Alford...
about that when you need to.
Oh my god, I love that one. That's a crazy ass story. But anyway, an Alford plea, and basically anytime you take a plea deal, you are basically waiving your rights to a trial. You're waiving your rights to plead the fifth. You know, all of your basic rights as a criminal. Once you get arrested and indicted, you no longer have those rights once you take a plea deal. You can't appeal. You can't, come back and say, "Oh, I think you've effed up." I mean, you could try, but it's usually never going to work because once you make that deal, you have to say you accept all of those terms. So what happened in an Alford plea, and this is directly from the U.S. Supreme Court. It's named after the North Carolina versus Alford case in 1970, and in that case, Henry Alford, he faced first-degree murder. Now, he could have faced the death sentence as a capital offense if the jury found him guilty, because capital murder. But there was a lot of solid evidence against him, and he was convinced by his lawyer to take a plea, and the prosecutor allowed him to plead to second-degree murder, which carried a penalty of 2 to 30 instead of the death penalty, He pled guilty, but said he was not guilty. So he was admitting guilt to avoid the higher penalty. So the Supreme Court held that the court could accept a guilty plea based on a voluntary and intelligent choice, even if the defendant continues to claim innocence. A lot of judges won't do it. A lot of judges will say, if you don't say guilty or no contest even, because it's a lot like a no contest plea, except in a no contest, you're not specifically saying you're innocent. You're just not going to try to fight. You're not going to try to prove that you're not, which is in and of itself saying you're guilty. The difference in this one and the Memphis 3 case, they were actually freaking innocent, and the Alford plea wasn't saving their face, it was saving the prosecution's face. Because
specifically the DA or ADA, I can't remember which one it was. I don't remember. She was...
Oh, my Lord, I couldn't deal. So, the only way I can look at an Alford plea is somebody is getting a free pass or a way out, like this is our silver platter offer for you, right? So, did I mention what he was doing in Jersey when he was arrested?
No.
His current employment was as a counselor at a children's home. He was counseling children.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good plan.
Yep. That's what he was doing. They finally get him back in front of a judge. I want to know which one of those DAs decided this was a good freaking idea. The only, even slightest remnants of an explanation was a single quote from one of the assistant DAs that said, well, when we looked at the evidence, we realized that if we had anything, it would be closer to a second-degree murder. Okay, so why didn't you charge him with second-degree murder and take it to trial? No?
This pays better.
No? 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 Okay. So, when he pled guilty, the actual article itself basically did a quick skim because it was on the front page, but it didn't even continue to another page. So it covers what happened. It covers her body went she went missing, her body was found, and then he was eventually indicted. But he pled guilty in an unscheduled hearing. The prosecutor said that the evidence against him didn't support a first-degree murder conviction, and he said, quote, with all the facts we had, we felt like it very easily could be a second-degree murder case. And that's the only freaking thing anyone ever said from the DA's office. The second-degree murder would have been at least 15 and at most 25. Which is different than now. In Louisiana, you get second-degree murder, you go to jail for life, honey. L.Y.
For a second?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Manslaughter, which was what he took the Alford plea to. Okay. He was sentenced to 10 years. Okay? 10 years. He's already been in jail since April. He only has to serve 4.5 years to be eligible for parole. That's it. 4.5 years. Of which he's already served over 1.5 years. By the time he took the plea.
This shit's dumb.
Yeah. I do find it kind of poignant, though, that he was eventually caught. 1, because he couldn't keep his freaking mouth shut. 2, because the woman he always wanted, somebody who was obsessed with him and wanted him forever and only him and gave him all of their attention and time and affection,
they didn't want to in the first place,
was the one who ended up taking him down, at least initially. So, at this point, I'm sure you're wondering, well, what the hell happened to Brenda's case? I know we can't do double jeopardy, but did any... All right.
Not a goddamn thing.
So here's what happened. He takes that plea in August, or I'm sorry, not August. He takes the manslaughter plea, and that would be so that was March of 92. He took the Alford plea. 10 years, 4.5 years to be eligible for probation. No idea why they made this deal with him. No clue.
I already told you.
So, Louisiana as a whole is pissed. Because not only did he get away with murdering Brenda at age 18 with so much of her life ahead of her for doing nothing but existing, really. They're in a state of, what can we do? How can we make this bastard pay for what he's done? Like, we need justice. The family needs justice. Joelle and Brenda both need justice because this 4.5-year shit is ridiculous.
For birds.
So they start digging and they start looking, and I'm sure they had roomfuls of people brainstorming, trying to figure out what they could do, because now they're looking at this confession. Literal word for word. They actually published it in April of 91. When he gave his confession, the initial confession was in April, and the quote that they put in the paper said, the question was, because he just asked it kind of out of nowhere to kind of bring her up, and he said, what were the circumstances surrounding the death of Miss Spicer? Ivrin says, I asked her to come, like, we had a storage unit, and I asked her to come there with me, and then I was trying to talk to her. You know, I had been asking her to, you know, try to give me some time with Joelle, and she just kept saying that she was going to be with Joelle no matter what, and so I got mad with her, and I strangled her. Then the investigator asked him, he said, and where did this take place at? Storage area? He said, yeah. And he said, where was that storage area located? Oh, not far from the college campus in Monroe, Louisiana. He said, okay, well, after you strangled her, what'd you do? I took her body back to the campus and put it in the dumpster and went back to the game. Or I went back to the dorm or something. I don't remember. So exactly what they had assumed happened had actually happened.
Imagine that.
He took Brenda, the gas station owner that saw the tall black man, little white woman standing outside of the storage area, right outside of the freaking area where the locker known to be Ivrin's was, watched them go into that one. I mean, like, the guy identified it was storage locker number 103, and that was the one that belonged to Ivrin. That was the one he saw the black man and white woman go into, and the white woman he never saw come out. But in fairness, he never saw the black man come out either, although he did see the door closed later and the car gone. Same one. Now they have an actual confession. They know it was him. They don't know what to do, so they work on it. March 3rd of 92, when he finally pleads guilty, because from the time that he confesses, Louisiana got their...
They've been pissed for a couple of years now, so they got...
Everybody who was anybody, especially Joelle's family at this point, because Joelle's mom, now knowing what she knows, is understandably...
devastated.
Completely. There's no other... I'm having trouble finding a word to put into this, because I can't imagine that amount of just...
high enough,
just entire earth-crushing weight that falls on you when something like that comes out. Like, I vouched for you. I told people you were there. I thought you were there. You were being played the entire time, man. You were used, and your daughter was used, and then your daughter was used and then thrown away on the side of the road like a piece of garbage, because that's how he sees women.
Or possibly just people in general.
He pleads guilty.
It's entirely possible he's just a sociopath.
On March 10th, okay, 12 days later, Louisiana, they file an indictment on Mr. Ivrin for what?
Whatever they can.
What is it? So February 28th, he pleads guilty. Or he takes an Alford plea to manslaughter. March 10th, the district attorney, Jerry Jones, in Washita Parish,
Perjury?
files an affidavit for an arrest warrant with the parish judge for perjury.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get there.
Yeah. So, I know a lot of you are like, scratching your heads. We're gonna get there, I promise. Sorry, that was a mosquito.
Because he was acquitted by saying the entire time he was not guilty in a case that he was guilty in. Fucking genius.
Yeah, hang on.
Fucking genius.
Not just that, because perjury is a very specific statute. Again, another one of those definitions I looked up, because
making false statements on while under oath?
Is it not?
It's very specific. Let me read it to you in full, okay? And I know this is getting a little long-winded. I'm trying to do my best. Perjury is the intentional making of a false written or oral statement in or for use in a judicial proceeding or any proceeding before a board or official wherein said official or board is authorized to take testimony. In order to constitute perjury, the false statement must be made under sanction of an oath or an equivalent affirmation. And how many ands we got? And must relate to matter material to the issue or question in controversy. So in layman's terms, you have to be under oath in front of an official. It has to be done according to the subject matter at hand, and it has to be very specific in perjury in that specific question of controversy. So specifically about the murder, specifically stated oral or written, but in his case it was oral. He was before a judge under oath in front of during a proceeding in which the only matter of which that they're talking about he perjured himself was the direct matter where he said, I did not strangle Brenda, I did not kill her, I did not do those things. And he may have done himself favors in the 1988 trial when he took the stand in his own defense because everything looked pretty then. But now they've come back and said, well, now that you've confessed to this, we know that you were lying on the stand under oath in front of a judge. You're busted. Now, here's the shitty part.
Another one?
The maximum sentence for perjury, the highest that you can punish anyone for committing perjury, is 10 years. That's it. So by the time they get him down there in September, because they fight the hell out of that extradition too, September of 92, he pleads not guilty. They delay that trial all the way until 1995. Okay, so it was September of 92 to January of 95.
Still, that's awesome.
So it's still 2.5 years-ish to get him to the end of that one. They changed the venue. They had multiple motions. And when I say they went through the double jeopardy motions, they went all the way up to the Supreme Court with like 6 different writs trying to get shit thrown out, trying to get dismissals, trying to do all of that. They actually went into this specific, it's called collateral estoppel. And it's spelled ESTOPPEL, collateral estoppel. I had to Google this one. I've heard it before, never really looked into it that hard, but where double jeopardy protects you from being tried multiple times for the same crime, collateral estoppel prevents the relitigation of specific issues that has already been decided in a previous legal proceeding. So basically what they're saying is,
just because it's not the same exact crime, he's still being charged with something from that crime.
Right, that the judge has already decided was either true or not true, was either right or wrong. You can't say now that statement isn't legitimate because when the jury found him innocent or they acquitted him, they say that because that acquittal was the same as saying his testimony was true. Mm-hmm. Now, the big problem with that is that the jury didn't find him innocent.
Oh.
Okay, so here we go again with these legalese. The jury found him not guilty because the weight of the evidence was not beyond a reasonable doubt. Not specifically ruling that his testimony was true and factual. What they rendered was a verdict saying, you did not prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt based on what we have before us. not rendering a decision specifically on the issue of whether or not he was being truthful. So in that way, and then when I tell you that this got so many twisted ways to Sunday, my eyes started crossing at about the third, fourth writ. By the time I actually got to the appeal to the Supreme Court, and I was reading all of the different dissents, because they have, I believe it's 5, and then they had 3 and 2 split for the appeal, but it was upheld. But it was just, they found a lot of, this is a very heavily debated subject, because some feel like it should have been covered, some feel like they are opening doors for legal wranglings later on down the line. But the major part of the discussion that I found interesting was that, on the one hand, there's the concern that allowing the acquittal to insulate the defendant from perjury, so basically saying that if they're acquitted, that means you can't come back and commit, you can't say that they can't ever perjure themselves because they were acquitted. They're afraid that that would give future defendants an uncontrollable license to testify falsely, with a resulting nothing to the reliability of evidence. So, like, if something comes back up later and proves you wrong, you can't get in trouble for it ever. So you can just lie as much as you want on the stand, right? But then you go across to the other hand. There's apprehension that allowing a prosecution to charge for perjury, that it gives the state like a second shot at the defendant for the same wrong, and allow overzealous prosecutors in the future to use perjury to retry issues that were already determined in the acquittal. So in this case specifically, though, thank God, one of these freaking attorneys finally did right by the victims in this scenario, because they finally did the shit they needed to do. They were prepared. They laid this out in the most perfect fashion without touching anything else. They worked their asses off. Very diligent, very thorough. They had an answer, a rebuttal, a legal reasoning, and convincing arguments for everything that they presented in that perjury situation. And they fought. They battled for this. And so when this finally got to the appeal, because he was found guilty of perjury in March of 95, and when they finally got to the appeal up at the Supreme Court, we're not just talking about the circuit court, we're in the Supreme Court at this point, they said, it is clear the state is not attempting to rehash or refine the evidence used in the first trial in order to take a second shot. Rather, the state, in good faith, has obtained new and additional evidence that was not previously available, and that indicates that the defendant testified falsely under oath during the former trial. Now,
why is new and additional, why is that important?
Because in so much as to say that because of the advancements in science, they had the ability to confirm the DNA. They had the ability to present evidence that was there for the first trial, but not able to be used as evidence because of the statement that he gave. They can now corroborate that against the evidence that they already had.
So they've both gotten entirely new evidence, and they're able to use their evidence that they already had in a new fashion, or they were able to expound on it, or it became additional evidence
because they had something to hold it up against and say, look, this is what he testified, this is what he confessed to, and this is what proves it.
Right.
This is how we know that his confession is legitimate.
And the rest of this is bullshit.
When I say that they had to tiptoe that line finely, because they couldn't introduce anything that could call into question the acquittal. They could only bring into question his perjury. So when it came to talking about the evidence that, because they presented pictures, they did all of that with the body and everything, but they had to be very, very careful.
He said this is why this is alive, but I'm not talking about this. I'm just talking about
You're not talking about his guilt as a whole. You're talking about the statement that he made about what he did or did not do. And I'm telling you, they worked some. Oh my gosh!
Oh, but
I wish I could
they
have
weren't
seen
going
it.
to lose that one.
This was the Van Gogh of perjury cases.
Oh my
So,
God!
like the trial that this was, I wish I was there.
Like, and you know that there's no way Louisiana was going to lose that one. No matter what they had to do, they weren't going to lose it.
They changed judges. They changed juries twice. I'm pretty sure. Like
we gonna get this one, y'all. You made us look bad.
And not even that you made
bad.
us look bad, but you literally took the heart out of especially Northeast Louisiana at the time. He took a dagger, stuck it right into their heart, twisted it around a couple times, and then dragged it across the state. Like, it was awful because of
And then went to New Jersey and peed on it.
Right. And I mean, if it had not been for literally this comes down to is one dude up in New Jersey that didn't like the way.
I don't like the cut of your jib, boy.
They don't talk like that in Jersey.
I mean, damn, I love that fucking saying.
But something felt off to him. He hadn't
Nobody
been
talks like
convicted. He had an arrest. He'd had an indictment. But there was something that didn't sit right with this man, and thank the ever-loving goodness that it didn't. And I have pictures that I will post because I'm done, guys. I'm not talking anymore. I'm over it.
And she's starting to smell my skitty.
And it's late, and I'm tired, and I still have to edit and get this released. But my point is, I will have pictures that came out of Fran Parker, who's unfortunately deceased now, but the novel that she wrote, The Deadly Triangle. And my plan for my copy of The Deadly Triangle is to give it away. I just feel like if you want to know more, or if you want to read The Deadly Triangle, let me know. I would be more than happy for this to be something that is like, hey, this is Sinlaw's copy, pass it around to everybody who wants to read more about it.
Also,
and then maybe we can share in our frustrations about this syntax and
also
all of that.
bring along a South Louisiana translator for yourself.
Oh, no, it's not even that. We're not that bad down here, I promise. I'm not even actually from here. I was born in Texas.
Central, Eastern, Northern, Central, North, whatever, Sinlaw.
She's from up here, too.
She talked like she not.
Anyway, so that's that. If you are interested and you want to read that book, but you don't want to spend any of the extra money, and it was actually kind of difficult to find. There's only so many copies.
You're from South Louisiana. We still owe you.
Yeah.
But you're hard to understand sometimes.
So, if you're interested, let me know. Give me an address, P.O. Box, whatever. I will mail that out to you along with a couple of little goodies. That would be great. And just if you want to read that. And you can do it on my email, you can do it on my TikTok, whatever. However, I'll post it all over the place along with some of our cool new gear that we've got for our Patreons that we just got in. I'm super excited. Super excited! And we should have hats and what's the other one? The koozies? I don't remember.
Yeah.
They're in the process.
Often.
Right.
I want a hat.
I can't get. Look, guys, I have to do the backwards for you because I can't give you a white hat. It's never gonna work.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, no. So, long story short, and this is the part that I'm gonna leave you guys with because it sucks real bad. He was convicted of perjury. He was given 10 years consecutive to the 10 years from Jersey, but 4.5 years with good time, and the statute does not allow for it to be served without benefit. So basically, as much as the judge wanted to, he couldn't say hard time, straight time. So, unsure when Ivrin Bolden Jr. was released, but he was released. And not only was he released, but he, as of yesterday, the last time I checked, I didn't see an obituary, so he is still alive. And not only is he alive, but as of May 29th, 2011, he has married a Mrs. Marcia Chantel Smith Barnes, now Bolden.
So what we can extrapolate from this is that you are full of bad decisions. This is another one.
This is another really... Oh, like, she made it out of at least 2 other ones. Maybe she'll make it out of this one. All right. The part that blows my mind, and this will never cease to amaze me, this man has been convicted of... For sure, he has been convicted of 1 murder. The second one he was acquitted of, but later perjured himself. So his perjury conviction stemmed from the fact that he lied about murdering a woman. Manually strangling.
Both of them.
2 women. One of which he was in a relationship with for 6 years. Strangled them to death. He watched the life fade from them.
Fuck, watched, felt.
And who knows what he did to Brenda while she was alive. And I don't want to know what he did to her after she was dead. And Joelle in the same fashion. Like, I'm glad we don't know. But what kind of woman looks at him and is like, you know what? I think this is a good idea. This is a great plan.
Hey, you got enough money to do that shit and still be walking? Alright. What up? Hey.
I don't get it. I will never understand. But this is also the reason why I said earlier that, like, he's probably, if he's anything, he's more bi than gay, because he eventually did get married. But then again, he may have just been using that as a cover. I don't know. What I do know, though,
is his parents would have disowned him still to this day.
Absolutely, yes.
And he can't survive without them.
That's a fact. But also, none of this shit is right.
Nope.
They failed. The college failed. Her teammates and her coach, as good as they could have been, they failed Brenda. They did not do right by her to save the face of themselves. And I think now, in the times that we are in now, I don't feel like that same thing would happen. I feel like there's at least 1 to 2 people in every group of people, regardless of how much money you have, regardless of how much fame you have, regardless of how much damage it might do to whoever's or whatever's reputation. I feel like there's at least 1 or 2 that would stand up for the right thing, that would say something, that would do something. And I feel like it may have been different had it happened now. My conscience would not allow for me to know that I could have made a difference, or the possibility that I could have made a difference.
Not a distinguishing factor.
I wouldn't be able to live with myself, and that in and of itself is enough reason for me, because I have to be okay with myself at the end of the day, because fuck anybody else's opinion. If I can't sleep or live with myself, if I can't close my eyes at night and know that I've done everything that I possibly can to be the best human I can be, that's going to bother me. It might not bother some people. We call those sociopaths. But it does me. And that's what would be the determining factor for me. It would be an easy decision. Fuck all that. I mean, it would not be hard for me to be to come forward to be that person. And I know there were a few that tried, like the witnesses that came forward, the people who tried to say, no, he wasn't there. I know he wasn't there. But they had too many people who were willing to say otherwise, to try to cover it up, to try to make it seem not like it was, to try to make the entire team wear dresses and look more feminine so they didn't look like a bunch of... Yeah. So justice was not...
Now you just ran...
Not given. Justin was not...
Which is a...
There is no finality to this for me. He's still alive. He's still out there living. He's still allowed to enjoy the daily things
of life,
and grow old and get married and get to enjoy
not being strangled,
being alive and being free and being able to experience and grow and laugh and whatever the hell he wants to do, and hopefully not murder again.
Yeah, but
fully capable. He is not aged out yet.
I'm just saying, most people half his age have aged out.
Not true. He's not even 60.
I don't know. I just know he act like he's supposed to be old as dirt, but then he look like he's about strong as steel.
Yeah. So this is about we are over 2 hours of full time right now, Kayla, so I apologize and I love you. I knew this was gonna be hectic and it was gonna be a lot because there was just so freaking much. If you want to talk about it or if you want to read the book, let me know. I will get it to you, girl. Look forward to that package coming in soon. I just found the freaking spot where it gives me your address on there, so I don't even need you to write me back. I got it, boo. So I will send that out shortly. I might even be able to get it out tomorrow, honestly. I've go to work and the post office guy comes to my office, so I'd be able to do that. Anybody else, you can go to our website. We've got links for everything: the TikTok, the YouTube, the Patreon, the Twitter /X. I've got episode blogs that has extra little tidbits and pictures. Not the full scope of what I put on the Patreon, because the Patreon gets literally everything and then some. I'm going to actually keep up with it a little bit more consistently now, because I've been keeping up with the more widely open and free social postings and things, because that's where everybody's at, and I'm going to continue to do that, but I also am going to keep more consistent track of the Patreon as well. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sticking with us through this, and we are going to take next week off, and then we'll come back normally scheduled programming, and as of right now, I don't think I have any more specific listener suggestions, so send those in. Give them here. Come on. I got 2 weeks. You know what I can do in 2 weeks? I can make a whole murder board. Twice. Thank you guys so much. You're amazing and awesome, and I appreciate the support, and I appreciate you guys listening every other week or every week, depending, and sharing and liking and following. And if we get enough subscribers on my YouTube or on our YouTube channel for the Sin Law podcast, I can actually start live shows or live casting when we do the podcast recordings sometime in the future. We can stream live and interact and talk to you guys and do stuff like that, which I think would be really freaking fun, especially in cases like this when there's just so much to it. And I've got a couple other cases that are like that I think would be really excellent for a live show, so I would be 1,000,000,000% down for that. So keep listening, keep sharing, keep... Oh, we have more reviews too, but I'll cover that in a bonus episode later on Apple Podcasts. So thank you guys for that. I appreciate every single one of them. I think we're up to 10 whole reviews now. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you check us out on Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can find a podcast. And like us, share us, tell your friends about us, and come back and listen to us later. Thank you so much for everything, guys. You're awesome, and stay sin-lawsome, and stay safe out there.
This has been an Elf Audio production.